Welcome to the Deer Society podcast. Here's your host, Brian Lemke.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Deer Society podcast. I'm Brian Lemke, joined by Mike and JJ Dukart. Coming at you with some updates today. So talking about spring, which I think is finally going to come here in Minnesota, hopefully. We have some snow melting. Going to be talking about shed hunting, turkey hunting, food plot planting. Big news, and let's start there. So Illusion, brand new product you guys have developed and finally launched the Illusion food plot system. So how did that launch go? How's everything looking? What was that like for you guys?
Yeah, we've been kind of behind the scenes working with, on the wholesale side and obviously developing the product and getting it placed and positioned, I guess. And it's had just a ton of positive feedback on that. And then, launched a few videos out there, nothing crazy. Not a huge launch, but just kind of introduced the products to the public, and it's been all positive. Like, we're pretty excited about the feedback. Obviously, we've used the systems for a long time, testing them, so we knew the potential they had, all the ease of use, how it just kind of everything in one box. So it's been good there. But I mean, we're just really excited about it. Big orders coming in for some retailers we can share when products actually placed, that where people can find it. And then just still working on a lot of content and back end website stuff and just building kind of the platform for it. But overall, really positive, really excited. And we're going to start planting some, hopefully, next week.
Next week, yeah.
For those of you guys who haven't heard about Illusion food plot systems yet, you can get out from under your rock, but Mike will tell you about it right now. So yeah, just give everybody a breakdown of what that is.
Yeah, we've obviously been using food as part of a strategy for hunting for decades, obviously, and never really thought of it other than much more of that. And the Whitetails from Scratch, we do that video series. Part of that process was putting in food plots and managing the land and all that kind of stuff. And so that's the angle that I always, use the food plot for. I remember we created the bat blind when I got hurt, and we created a food plot there, and we just started just by default understanding how the deer would behave based on the different types of foliage, that they would eat throughout the year, starting from the fawn development. We were out there working on the bat blind at one time. There's a fawn bedded like literally 5 yards from us, right in that food plot. And so they're using that, and they're using it for development of the fawns. The does are using it obviously for nutrition. And then it creates that behavior as the season starts to roll in, the bucks start to come in and they start to establish dominant areas. And so it's much more than just food. So I never really looked at it as maximizing food for deer as really kind of, I don't want to use the word manipulate behavior, but create behavior, manufacture behavior. And that's what the system meant to me, because, my mindset is deer behavior. So I took an overall approach of looking at the land, developing the land, getting the deer to come in, giving them the right nutrition, creating this behaviors. And, within 4 years, we took two of the biggest bucks on the property in the same year. So it was extremely successful. Well, then JJ and, his, I'll say his cronies or helpers or whatever you want to say, started thinking about it more as a food plot system, because we make these little micro plots, quarter acre type stuff. We're not putting out 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 acres or 50 acres or whatever it is. That's the deer behavior. When they're not nocturnal, they're going to ag. Okay. So your properties are broke down into a couple ways. You're either inside out property or you're an outside in property. And what I mean by that is they're on your property inside, and then they move out toward the ag. Or maybe they're out in other areas and they come to your property because you got the ag or the food, because you don't have the support for the other part of their behavior, which is the bedding and all those types of things. So you may not have the timber or whatever it is in your particular region that they use for bedding and safety. It might be swamp, it might be a lot of different things. down in Texas, who knows? But so it's more of about a deer behavior on my behalf, and then more about actually growing the most maximized nutrition to create the most action and kind of control or manufacture their behavior. And that's how we develop the plot.
So, JJ, you want to elaborate on that? So, that's kind of why and how. So, what is an actual Illusion food plot system?
Yeah, so an Illusion food plot system, we got 3 flagship products. One is a perennial. We try to keep it super simple so people understand. One's a perennial mix of seed, one's an annual, and one is perennial plus annual. So kind of 3 main options that cover the use case for each, area of use. Perennial plus annual. They all have their benefits. But the seed inside of those blends that's packaged in the box, from soil starter, which conditions the soil, neutralizes the pH, calcium-based product, kind of just helps the seed germinate. So it's all built around the seed, right? All 3 of the fertilizers or liquids are the same in each bundle, whether it's the Easy Greens perennial, Primetime annual, 4 Seasons annual perennial. The second, which is a post-emergent fertilizers root booster, you're spraying that directly on the plants. You're feeding the plants. They're able to then take those nutrients, drive their roots down. Helps with larger bulbs, helps with stress and times of drought, get those roots down and deep so plants can get nutrients, moisture. And then the last application is Foliage Fuel Plus. The nitrogen based, and that's basically you spray it on the canopy again. The plant directly, absorbs that. You're feeding the plant, and that's what's going to expand and blow up the canopy. So it's all designed around maximizing that seed or that plant for that quarter acre. The quarter acre systems or building blocks. So that's what it is. My mind just a minute ago was going back to like the process of development and how we got to this point. You look back at how we first started hunting. Obviously you hunted way before I did.
Yeah.
Public land stuff, permission, hunting with your buddies, doing drives.
We've never had our own.
You don't have a
property
controlled
that we could control
property.
Right?
Then, it slowly shifts and it's still permission based, small property, family, friends, maybe some relatives, but always high pressure, other people hunting. So we started developing, or I shouldn't even say developing food plots, but started planting food plots 10 or more years ago on properties that had a lot of pressure. So you don't get to see the full picture of like, you can't sit there and say, what did the deer like best? It's not like a lab. You can't really, it's not a controlled area. So, going through that process and trying to figure out what works best in those situations, is kind of one step to where we got to finally own our own property, whitetails from scratch. And then we could actually at that point plant a food plot, know that nobody's walking through the bedding area or, people aren't walking dogs through the food plots, going on hikes. And so it's more of a controlled area. So kind of the progression of learning how to hunt in high pressure, introducing food plots, getting to a point where it's a more controlled environment. Now we can actually plant plots, plant strips, plant different blends, and see how the deer react naturally. That's kind of the progression of how we got there. Now we're at a point where we can like really dial in and hone like what we need to do with different blends and which fertilizers. It just kind of was a game changer or like a turning point once we own the property.
Once you owned
and
it.
now
Yeah.
where we could develop a product without all these outside influences. So that was kind of, I guess, a long way of just saying that's the process of how we got to actually developing a food plot system.
Yeah, and the cool part about it is like, to the consumer, it's such a simple thing. Like they get one box, right? And in that box is their seed blend. And then they have all the support for that seed blend right in there. They have their 3 spray-on fertilizers, which are going to support that growth of that plant from planting seed all the way through maturity. It's just one simple thing, right? So no guesswork. Now, what they don't see in that is all of the work and all of the testing that went in before that. So all those years of, okay, this worked, this didn't. These deer like this at this time of year. Like, that's what I think people can be confident in is like, and we've documented it. And that's what's cool is, included in this thing. You can scan a QR code and go see an instructional, not only how to plant it, but, see a lot of these things down the road of, look, these are different experiences that all of you guys have had and the team, with these different blends and scenarios and strategies that we've used for a long time to be successful that have all been dialed into this basically one box that somebody gets to buy. It's like, okay, I'm buying the means to plant a successful food plot this year and a lifetime supply of knowledge and strategy that I can pair with that. Man, that's kind of the coolest thing about the whole food plot system.
Yeah, and you guys touched on a lot of the points that really differentiates this system, if you will, outside of what we're actually what we've done in the past. So I just think about planting food plots in the past. It was like, get out there, you got to prep the soil, then you got to check the soil, take it into the ag partners, go in and have them, what do I need to put on that? They tell you this, and you go get the lime, or you get this, you get the treatment. You do all that process. Then it's like, well, what do I plant? What do the deer like? How much should I plant? Are they going to eat it all? Where do I plant it? All those types of things that have a huge impact on your deer's behavior. If you make your plot too big, it'll backfire on you. Okay, we found that out. If you make your plot not enough food in it, then it can burn out and get eaten out. So it was just if you put the plants in that they want early and then they're gone when it comes time for the rut, that's not helping you. It changes their behavior because they move on to something different. It's all about keeping them in a certain place with the right nutrition at the right time throughout the entire season to create these behaviors. And it sounds kind of weird, mad scientist kind of a thing. But if you look at what we were doing, we're going out and we're buying these big, huge bags and filling up the back of the truck, and then you got to get the fertilizer and you're filling that up, and you're running 4-wheelers out there, and you're trying to get a tractor to just the work, the volume of work and the volume of I guess products or elements that it takes to get this food plot right. It was just really, it was a lot, and it took up a lot of time. Now with these proprietary liquids that we've developed, it's just a complete game changer. And those premium seeds and the right seeds for the right time, and there's different food plot systems for different strategies. And so now we're getting into a little bit different thought process when it comes to food plots, a little more complexity to try and create a behavior of the deer. And I don't think that's ever really been done. And we've been doing it for many, many, many years and learning this. And now we're on the steps of actually creating. Well, now we're in a position where we're going to be creating an entirely new platform, all about that. So that's all stuff that we're going to share, years of experience and the years forthcoming of actuality of what's happening, the deer, why they're coming in or what they're doing, what they're eating, all that kind of stuff. So you're just going to learn. It's going to continue to learn on and on and on. Different systems have different impacts for different things, different strategies for your land, all that stuff we're going to share. And yeah, it's just never really been done that way before.
Now is the time, spring, where Easy Greens kind of comes into play. So perennial, something that is great for that springtime kind of seeding as we're going out of snow. We're getting that thawing, some freeze thaw as well. So JJ, talk me through, the strategy coming up with that Easy Greens mix, and how you guys are going to be applying it.
Yeah, so Easy Greens, that's the perennial. It's 4 clovers and a chicory. It's a good, so the thing about this mix, which is really cool, is it lasts all season long. During the winter up here, it doesn't get hit too much because of the snow depth. The other day I was out doing some work in the shed, and I actually looked out the window, and there were 4 of the mature bucks that we know of, but there was 9 bucks total eating this Easy Greens clover, the dead plants from last year. So they wanted access to it. They just couldn't get it for the snow. But in the most cases, it's a 3 or 4 season blend. And it does really well if you plant it in the spring or in the fall. And then if you can get good establishment, then it's going to keep coming back for years to come, with some maintenance and some fertilizing and stuff on top of that. So yeah, deer were actually eating easy greens this last week, and it's, they're digging through that couple inches of fresh snow to get to it. So that was kind of cool to see. As far as planting more easy greens coming up, we got kind of a new method once the snow is melted off. We have our soil starter, which is bundled in all of our systems. That's a soil neutralizer, kind of neutralizes the pH and allows those plants to, access to more nutrients and actually germinate and start strong. So our strategy here is going to be, it's not going to be called frost seeding. It's a new method that we're going to break down in a few weeks for you with some video content, but spraying that exposed soil, neutralizing the environment and then putting the seed on top at a temperature where we know that the seed's going to germinate within the 2-week period of, that soil starter being on the ground, because the soil starter only lasts for a couple weeks on the ground.
So it kind of, it's not a frost seeding. What he's saying is it's a different type of seeding. We're trying to figure out a name for it, but thaw seeding or spring seeding, whatever you want to call it. So when you put that soil starter on and neutralize that soil, you have a window to more efficiently germinate that seed. See? So now we're broadcast. We're not planting this and burying it under the ground. What we're doing is we're broadcasting. So instead of a frost seed, it's a different system. You wait till spring, you put it in that thawed ground, you put that soil starter in, and now you're going to more efficiently germinate more plants, which is going to make it a more efficient food plot for you. And the premium seed blends, those were all, I'll let JJ fill you in on that, but that premium seed blend is all designed for maximizing. So, I remember we put in the exact same plot, I think it's, what's bat blind? Is that a quarter acre? Half acre?
Yeah, more half acre.
Yeah, closer to a half acre. And we tried different seeds, and some of that stuff was just down to black dirt before it even had a chance to do anything. Okay. Then we started this system, and you'll see the footage of last year. It's just this ridiculously huge plumage, massive foliage type thing, and there's no way they couldn't even eat it. They were still in there using it well into the winter and beyond. But as far as that, I'll let you keep going on that. I just wanted to kind of put that point there that it's not frost seeding. It's like a spring type thaw seeding, and the window is designed to germinate more with this proprietary liquids and these premium specific seed blends that we're using.
Yep. So then we'll follow that up after we get the germination with the root booster and the foliage field plus. The two areas so you kind of want some strategy going into this. Like, do you have your soil prep from last year? Is this a new planting? Or, do you have to work the ground a little bit? So you got to have kind of a game plan going into it. But two ways we're going to use it is, like the brassicas from last year, the primetime blends, or the 4 seasons where the brassicas, they're annual, so they're not coming back. We can hit that with easy greens to now start a new perennial plot for multiple years, or we can put it on a plot like that and just use it to kind of build the soil and keep some coverage on the ground and keep some food there for the turkeys and the fawns and the does, bucks growing velvet. So it just has that food source throughout the summer, and then we can also till that back in or terminate it and then grow an actual fall plant too. So a couple different ways that we're going to test and document on video. But yeah, turkey season's rolling up. Actually opens next week, so we're going to be doing some turkey hunting and some seeding of the easy greens.
Yeah, just one note: if you're going to go and you're gonna use that easy greens coming up, some strategy on that beforehand. If it's something where there is a lot of whether it's leafy matter or things, you want to try to clear that off before you apply, the soil starter and your seed. So you want to still get that seed to soil contact as much as possible. And depending on what tools you have, I mean, you can use a rake to do that. You can use a leaf blower, a big pull behind rake, just whatever you can do to get that as much matter off the top of the dirt as you can and get that black dirt exposed.
Yeah.
So you get that maximum seed
But
to soil contact.
a drag on a 4-wheeler or whatever, I mean, even on your pickup truck, whatever you can, it depends on what you have access to there. So yeah, as far as that, these liquids, we haven't explained this either, but you think about back in the day, all right, well, I had to go figure out what I needed to neutralize the soil, and then I had to get bags of lime, I had to put that on, I had to do this, and then what fertilizer do I need? Then I put it on, and all these different steps. But it's so simple. These liquids are pre-measured concentrate. And all you do is get the cheapest little 2-gallon or 3-gallon, or you could have a good 5-gallon sprayer. It doesn't make any difference. But get a cheapy little sprayer, hand sprayer, pour that liquid in and fill it up with water. And it doesn't matter if you put in 2 gallons, which is it's designed for, or 5 gallons. You just make sure you spray the whole thing on the quarter acre, okay? And so you could spray it heavier or mistier, depending upon, I mean, it might be a little windy that day. You might want to make it a little heavier. I'd probably add a little bit more water then. That way you don't have to worry about the mist blowing off, because you want that contact on the leaf, because it's not about dealing with your soil anymore. The soil conditioner does that, and you just spray it on and walk away. It's really that simple. And then once the plant starts to sprout, which it helps that germination come quickly, and it starts to come up, then you hit it with that root booster. Once again, same thing. Dump it in a little 2-gallon. You're done in, I'm talking minutes. It takes very little time. And so now those roots are driving down into the soil and getting healthy to create that super plant. Each individual plant that sprouted now, which we encouraged more of them. And of course, our seed blends are heavier than a typical, application of seed, because we got a broadcast rate versus a drill rate. So when you're getting that bag of seed, it's like more than you would normally get, because it's made for broadcast. So it's designed for that thickness.
Yeah, and when it comes to the soil, like if funds are unlimited and you have access with big equipment and you can bring in tons of lime, like literally tons of pounds of lime, like I don't think that's not a bad situation here.
No.
We're just trying to combat, like that's not possible for 99% of people.
And
so what can we do to make these plots successful without, because we can't bring tons of lime into our plot locations. They're back in trails you can hardly get a tractor or 4-wheeler through. So we're not saying like don't go that route to have like the optimal, planting condition, but if that's going to cost you a lot of money, and it's just not possible in most cases, which is why we designed that.
I'm going to put it out there. We did that, and we do that on our ag land, but we've done that. This actually is better performance. It's a higher performance, a more tonnage in a smaller area. It's just better than the old process. And it's way cheaper. And it's way easier. But JJ's right. There's nothing wrong with the old way, but I'm telling you, this is a game changer.
Yeah, ours is just designed for what the majority of us experience.
So but we're getting
acre, limited equipment, hand sprayer, spreader, like that's like why we designed it.
I don't know the number, but I'll bet you we're putting as much food out there in a quarter acre as we used to put out in what? Well, it depends on what you planted. It depends on a lot of things. But I mean, if I remember the time we put in a mix of beans and something else in that one plot, and it basically we had to replant it before the season even started. And this last same plot, on that particular scenario, it was at least many, I don't even want to put a number out there, because then I'm not making a claim here. I just know our experience in that scenario was with that bean mix and whatever else we had in there, some brassicas, might have been radishes or turnips or something else. But that wasn't even a quarter of the same system that we are now selling when we did it the old way. It was way, 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 way more because of these new proprietary liquids in the system, the way it's all laid out. That was our experience. I'm not making that claim that you're going to have that experience, but that's our experience. I mean, you're getting way more for so I just don't want you to think that a little micro plot with a quarter acre isn't very much food, because it's a lot of food, or a half acre like we did at the bat blind. It lasted the entire year. And I mean, so much, they couldn't even come close to putting any damage on that early season. It grew that quick and that aggressively.
So let's talk about turkey hunting a little bit. Let's shift gears.
Before we shift, we gave away an Easy Greens box last podcast. So we're going to be announcing the winner of that giveaway on social media. If you check that out, we'll message the person direct. But I think we should give away 4 seasons on this one. So keyword 4 seasons. Send us a direct message. Comment in. Where should they comment? There's so many places. Just send us a direct message. The word 4 seasons.
We'll put a post out before we put the podcast out live. We'll put a post up about that, and then they can.
Well, yeah, send us
on the podcast post.
Yeah, and you can just send us a direct message with the code 4 seasons. You can send it on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Send an email. Text Mike.
Yeah. His number is 555-55555.
He might not answer. He might be on the golf course, but if you get it if you text Mike, you'll also have a shot at winning.
Double your chances.
This thing. Yeah. So, code word 4 seasons, and we'll pick another winner. But yeah, so from there, kind of shifting into turkey season, one of the cool things about Easy Greens is being a perennial food plot, something that's going to green up kind of starting now. You'll see that plot in the spring. That's one of the first things that really is green once that snow starts to melt, and it obviously comes back year after year. So like right now we'll start seeing, those perennial plots at Easy Greens green up. Great place to turkey hunt too, because it's one of the first things that's green. So, you'll start to see some deer on it, that wildlife, including turkeys. Great place for them, especially if you create an environment that's flat, open. Toms like to go there and strut. So maybe a strategy that we work into the spring turkey hunt coming up as well.
Yeah, it's a cover crop. It keeps the weeds at bay. You're not dealing with, if you had an annual in there like brassicas, you'd be looking at, just a lot of dirt. And if it's raining, that's mud, just a sloppy situation. So, getting that cover crop on there just helps so many different ways. And turkeys love it.
Yeah,
turkeys a short plot so they can strut around and it's not 3-4 foot tall weeds.
And they do forage in it too. So their turkeys are eating
bugs are in there.
The food, the bugs are in there, but they're also eating some of the green too. I watched it happen. I was like, oh, I didn't know the turkeys were eating that because it was deer hunting season. But it created a behavior for the turkeys and the deer, not just the deer. So turkeys were coming through very consistently, all season long as well. In fact, with this whole kind of a super environment, or I don't know what you want to call it, but it's like a super charged environment for wildlife that we've created over the last 4 to 5 years. The amount of wildlife has increased. I don't know, Jay, what would you say? At least double, maybe triple? 4 times possibly. I'm talking deer, turkey have just exploded out there. Now, that can be a problem, too. That means you got to start taking more animals, if you're going to create that much, wildlife, and that could go the other way. I mean, we had but nature takes care of it. Nature took care of it this year. Unfortunately, it took care of our shooter bucks, and we can talk a little bit about that either now or at a later podcast. But, yeah, it's all about deer behavior and wildlife behavior, and the wildlife that we brought in using these types of systems that we're talking about is just extremely successful. And we want to share that with everybody.
I know the whitetails from Scratch property, been crawling with turkeys
just
here
crazy
lately. It should be a pretty good turkey season coming up. I know there's one out there. I saw some 2 pretty solid, distinct double beards. So I don't know are you going to be after one single bird this year, or what's the plan?
Yeah, it's kind of strange because you get this winter flock. They kind of all group up, and even with the deer, we had all the food, or a lot of food. So we had all the deer herding up. We'd see 50 deer and 60 turkeys. It was kind of out of control. But now you're starting to see them split up a little bit. So yeah, which ones are going to stick around, which ones won't? Hard to know. Last year, the search for tiger tail kind of slowly crept into the storyline, and we went for him for a little bit. We had Captain Hook one year. So there's always this one bird that, hopefully there's a double beard out there we can chase, but we'll see see which ones stick around and which ones
a
get
comment
pushed out.
on that is like,
There is one bird that I keep seeing, a tom, and he's always by himself. So we got the three amigos came back from last year.
I hope they get,
And they're gobbling when it's 5 degrees out. They're just super aggressive, the three amigos. But there's one bird, one tom that's always by himself. So I'm not sure what the situation is there.
But a comment on what he said about there's turkeys, but they're splitting up. Well, that's where, the full season of food comes into play in habitat management, because if you're keeping the hens there, the toms are going to be there. If you're keeping the does there during the rut and estrus, the bucks are going to be there. And that's the key. A lot of people think, I got to create this habitat for a big buck and this and that. Yes and no, mostly no. Really what you need to do is create safe havens so that you have the does are staying there and you're not kicking them out, and you give them the food and the nutrition. What's going to keep the does there? Their fawn safety, their nutrition, their safety. And same thing with the hens. You got to keep the predators down a little bit. So you got to think it's not just about a tom. It's not just about a buck. It's about, and that's what we've created. And that's why there's so much wildlife out there.
How about you, Mike? Little 10-point redemption this year in the turkey front?
Big time. I mean, shooting a deer a deer with a crossbow is one thing, but shooting a turkey with a crossbow is a different world.
Hard to hit.
It's not that they're hard to hit, it's just so different, and you think about it in a different way. And I learned a lot last year. Let's just stick with that story.
Yeah.
Because that crossbow is so quick, so aggressive. And looking through a scope at a bird that you can literally see his head through the window as he walks by the blind, that's a tough shot.
Yeah, no doubt.
No
doubt. Yeah, well, I think there's some serious redemption coming from Mike this year. That'd be good. I think it's going to be a heck of a season. It, like JJ said, it starts next week. So the good news is I did see it's supposed to be like 75 on Wednesday. I can remember a couple years ago we were out there. It was opening day, and it was 27 degrees, and it was brutal. You shot a turkey that day.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. That was cold last year.
The thing didn't even gobble. Next thing you know, it was just in the field.
Well, the year before that, it was actually snowing when we first went out.
Yeah.
But then, the one you're talking about right out of IMAX was, cold. Not snow on the ground, but he flew down and we got him in the first 15, 20 minutes. I don't know what it was, but right away. But yeah. Turkey hunting is a lot colder than you'd think. You're ready, you think it's spring and, it's going to be warm, it'll be gobbling. And you get out there opening day and there's nothing green growing at all. Sometimes there's a little frost or snow on the ground and you kind of wish you had a blanket in the blind sometimes, or a hot coffee or hot chocolate. But hopefully this year will be a little different. We'll get some action
I think
right away.
60s.
70.
And then the following week,
75.
70s, yeah.
Well, so you gotta get a turkey killed so you can get shed hunting, because here in Minnesota it's been brutal. Like we just got 5 inches the other day. Now luckily most of that's melted, but there's still a lot of snow out there. Like anything that's north facing, a lot of stuff in the timber, still snow covered. I mean, we've been out looking a few times, and obviously you picked up some sheds. There's a pile over there, but a lot of places haven't been able to, or hasn't been worth accessing. To this point, shed hunting's been tough, so still a lot of walking left to do.
Yeah, there's a buck that every time I think of shed hunting, I'm thinking of Patches, because we got that video of him. Came out of one of our secluded bedding areas. That was in January, and that was before we had 3 different ice storms and all the big deep snowpacks. So I just keep picturing have his sheds been buried for 2.5 months, and we're finally gonna have access to them, or did they, get hung up in a tree and now they're all chewed up? You don't know, but
and then
they've been down there for 3 months waiting for us to come.
Timber work too, but we didn't do timber work in the area he's talking about. So they could be buried in that snow.
Yeah, they came in and ate a lot of the tops on those trees. We'll be releasing a Whitetails from Scratch logging video coming up here too. That's a pretty cool one. Follow that up with some shed hunting. Spring food plots, turkey, we'll just roll into that. But yeah, I'm excited to get out shed hunting. We've only walked 10% of the property, so a lot of walking to do. And it's kind of like, I like to grid search. That's kind of my method, is just slow grid search. You get to walk through areas that you don't access or enter the rest of the year. So it's like, take your time, look around. Like, is there a tree that you should be hunting out of? Is there a better way to, do some habitat work, access, like where are the main bedding areas? You got to go in and clean anything up. So it's like a thought process outside of just finding sheds. So I go slow, and it's like, if there's snow coverage on 50% of the ground, I don't want to have to walk it twice, right?
Right.
So spend 2 days instead of 1 day to walk an area and do a nice grid search. So I've just been waiting patiently for the right day. Nice overcast, maybe rainy day. Snow's gone, shed should be popping, and just give it one go. Not disturb it too many times and waste days and hours, because we're limited.
Well,
Limited on time.
That timber work was a big project. I mean, that was a major deal for us. We changed the lay of the land significantly in an area that we hadn't touched at all. And, to take that kind of timber out and to make that kind of commotion, we got a lot of cleanup work to do. Now we can start to, create our masterpiece, if you will. Now that that's done, we can go in there and we can do whatever we want. It's a blank canvas. It's brand new. We opened up the canopy. Got some good return on that investment of coming in and harvesting, it was key trees. We went in there and we marked them individually. We didn't just, what do you call that? Blanket cut or whatever you call that, clear cut. We didn't, it's not that at all. And it wasn't a hinge cut either. It was a harvest, which was great because these oaks were basically at their peak. And we were losing probably 10% of them of age already. So it was time to do it and get it done. And so now we created commerce. We created, I'm a big capitalist guy, so I'm into that kind of thing. And, we got a little return on that for equipment that we can put back into the property. Part of that process was stumbling on, you've probably already heard of it, the video went viral, that we stumbled on Peyton, our target buck. And there he was laying there dead when we went in to go mark trees. Well, social media is kind of a funny animal. If somebody latches onto something, it can go crazy, in the talking points. And what people picked out was that the deer didn't look like it was frozen dead, like we were claiming, because we had brushed it off and made it look good for camera and all this and that. And so it was kind of, I wasn't upset by any means by any of that negative talk. That's just the way, it is on social media. So we just kind of explained ourselves and stuff like that, but it just kept going viral and viral and viral. It was kind of a cool post. I enjoyed interacting with it. But now I think we'll maybe repost that. I was emptying all the videos on my cell phone because I was going on my spring vacation, which started April 1st and just got over on March 30?
March 1st.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me correct you.
Yeah. It started in March 1st and went to the first week in April. So that was my little vacation. And anyway, as I'm clearing my phone for videos, I found when I walked up on them initially, I did one and showed them all frosty and stiff as a board and everything. So we'll clarify that for people and just let people know that, our integrity is real, So
I do just want to clarify. I did ask Mike this morning how his vacation was, and he corrected me. He said, "That's not vacation, dude. That's my life."
that is my new lifestyle.
Yeah, it's my new life. No, that's funny.
Yep. 18 rounds of golf in already.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That'll be my next 3 years of golf.
Controversy.
You're lucky.
Yeah, if you're lucky, JJ's we got us a newbie coming in June, hopefully, is what we're
Yep, so thinking. I need to get my turkey hunting in, shed hunting, all the projects, and then take the summer and...
Number 3.
Yep. But yeah, shed hunting, it'd be cool. Bring the family. Get out. Do a little turkey hunting. You're bringing your son turkey hunting?
Yeah, I'll take him out.
Too.
Take him out again. Yeah, he likes going out there, and I think he likes just getting up, early and going out there in the dark. And he was a trooper last year, and it was cool. I think, he likes hearing him gobble, and then he likes the after. But we shot a turkey, and that was cool. He his patience was actually better than I thought. Lots of snacks, lots of.
Yeah.
It's nice when you have a blind and you can
Yeah.
try to conceal that noise a little bit. It didn't even matter if we shot one or not, but we ended up shooting one, and that was cool. And he went down there and jumped on the turkey, and it's mounted up there in his room now, so that's kind of cool. But kind of a Mountain Mike's display there that, I mean, that's one that'll last forever. It's interesting. Like, I was talking to Connor the other day, and we were talking about strutter decoys, and I'm like, man, I need a new fan for my decoy because it got destroyed last year. And Connor's like, he's like, I might have an extra one. I could just pull it down off. He had it mounted or something up there. And, I have done that with all of mine, pretty much, stole the fan off the wall or whatever. And I look at that one all the time, that Mountain Mike's display in my son's room. And I just think that's one that I'm never like, that fan will always and forever just be a special one and live there. So
I tell you, I got a gazillion stories. It's kind of cool to watch you guys go through this process, with your kids and everything, and the interactions that you're having. And I could go back and tell stories about Chris and JJ and it's identical. And, now I fast forward and watch you going through those same experiences that I had. It's kind of surreal, I remember coming home and I'd have a deer in the back of the Blazer at the time, open up the tailgate, and the boys would just come running outside. Did you get one? Did you get one? And they'd see it and they'd have to touch it and, this and that, or we'd bring in and, did you get any geese? Because I started out as a goose hunter. I used to call them the world championships of goose calling and all that. I never won it, but yeah, I started out studying animals in waterfowl. So I did a lot of waterfowl hunting and actually had my own guide service, which was very successful. But they would just get so eaten up with it. And I never, ever pushed it on them. I watched a lot of guys that did what I did, and they would push their kids to get into that calling competition and this and that. And I never did that. And it didn't catch their interest, so I just let it go. I never forced them to hunt. I knew if I pushed them, it wouldn't be fun for them. And it just morphed on its own. It just morphed on its own. And that's what you guys are going to, come to experience. And, it's just great. Whether they kept hunting or not didn't matter, but those experiences are there forever. So.
Yeah, I don't know how you did that and pulled it off. I don't think my kids are quite ready for a blind. They're loud and wild and crazy. Wouldn't last very long, but
lots of snacks.
Yeah. Those don't last long enough.
Food coma.
Man, one thing that is, I'm glad I didn't grow up with like a premium hunting property where it was super easy to hunt and deer just walked in, you shot them, or turkeys were all over the place. I think I would have been spoiled. So now it's like, we obviously have a good situation where we have the food plots and lots of animals and game. But you don't want to spoil your kid either. So it's kind of that balance of like, how much patience do they have? Do you really want to just make it easy? Or do you kind of make it a little, I don't know.
Well, you don't want to make it too easy, because if it's like extreme success right on the front end and they shoot a 180-inch buck the first time they ever hunt, now what are you going to do? You know what I mean? They need to learn the process too, And we did once you guys got your permits and we went archery hunting. I don't know how old you were. We bought those dart and bows that you could get pulled back, but yet still kill a deer. That was the requirement. You had to be able to pull back X amount of pounds, so I know that you could go through a deer and kill it. And so they worked hard at getting it. And I know you're in middle school, maybe?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't sit in the tree with them. I put them up in a tree. Now, I sat in a tree or a blind with them when they were young before they hunted. Didn't get, like you say, it was more babysitting than it was anything, but they actually would see deer and they'd scare deer and they learned the process. So they were actually in that environment, but they really didn't learn how to hunt until they're on their own. And I remember a couple things. One really stuck out to me. Put JJ up in this tree and I knew there was does coming out in this grass field every night like clockwork. And I figured he'd shoot a young doe or a fawn or something like that. And so I put him in there, got him in there, blah, 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 blah. And he was just, I mean, when I went to go pick him up, he's like, oh, I did it. And he was just, and it came right at. And I go, well, how come you didn't, get ready? Because the deer seen him, get ready to pull back. He goes, well, I was sitting down. I forgot to tell him he's got to stand up.
An arrow in my...
And he didn't have an arrow in his bow.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot to tell him that. I forgot to say, you need to
just
knock
kinda
an
fold it
arrow,
over
and
your
then if
shoulder.
something's moving, you got to stand up and prepare yourself. I didn't tell him any of that, so he had to learn that on his own. And I didn't do it on purpose. I just assumed he, knew. I just took it for granted, which was wrong. But yeah, it's just things like that, And you'll remember that one.
Oh, I remember that one.
And the frustration of, I'm trying to think, was that you that
I think just
you called that one big buck in underneath the tree and then you end up hitting a tree, or was that me? I don't remember what it was, but
Yeah, I hit a tree.
Oh,
I've hit
we
trees.
called in
We've
3
hit
bucks
trees.
that day. And he missed a
One I
chance
couldn't
on.
get pulled back, one I hit a tree, and the next one I was just like pretty much done with hunting.
He was just like, I'm done. That was a great day. That was a heck of a memory.
Yeah, and that's what keeps me driven or kept me going. Like, I want to learn more. I got to get better at this, and it drives you to get better. So if I would have just, buck came in, I would have shot him right away, got the first buck on
Now
the
he's
first
bored.
day.
Now he's like, I want to play Angry
I don't think
Birds,
things would have turned out the same way. So just trying to figure out how to balance that. Like right now we go shed hunting, want my girls to go out there, and you don't want them just walk around forever and never find a shed, but you also don't want them to find a pile of sheds. So you kind of, place one here, place one there. But yeah, it's just that balance. So we'll figure it out.
Yeah, you don't want my son last year. We were walking and he walked up and he found a spike, right? A shed. And he picks it up and he looks at me and he says, that's not a shed. He throws it back down on the ground. I'm like, well, it's going to be a while before you find another one, buddy. That's a shed. It counts.
That's good.
Well, it's the perfect time of the year to get family out, kids out. You can walk through some bedding areas and spook some turkeys and, just not worry about as much and get involved. So that's
Burn off
kind of
some winter
the next few
calories.
months. There's not a lot of bugs. It's not, too hot.
Right.
It's just a great time to introduce them.
Great time to be outside. Great time to do stuff. I mean, turkey hunting, shed hunting, planting, scouting. So lots of good stuff. We're going to wrap this up. We'll do another podcast here coming up. Talk about some more planting, dive into some food plot systems some more, talk about turkey hunting, give you some updates there. So if you haven't done so already and you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, download the free Deer Society app, and go check out Illusion Food Plot Systems. Brand new information's out there now. So learn about them, lots of information, more coming, but definitely a tool that can really simplify your life when it comes to food plots this year. So thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.
All our sponsors here at Deer Society are partners whose equipment we know we can trust are going to make you more successful and have a better experience in the field. Products like Illusion Systems, maker of the Black Rack, the Extinguisher, and the Phase Body Odor System. Tacticam, Reveal Cell Cameras, 10-Point Crossbows, Onyx Maps, Osseo Gear, Huiman, and Big Frig.